What's up, y'all? This gonna be a short video. I'm gonna diverge a little bit on this one from, I wouldn't say necessarily spirituality, but I'm gonna diverge from uh Lucifer, God, particularly, um, religions. This is something. What I'm gonna cover today is something that really reaches across all people. You know what I mean? All walks of life, all faiths, all just people. This is just more. This gets more into like psychology, and it kind of meshes psychology, um, socialism, and spirituality all together because the topic I'm going to cover today is shadow work. Um, so a lot of people, and the reason why it connects to your spirituality is because um, it gets you on like a higher level. It gets you to a closer relationship with your spirituality when you do your shadow work. A lot of people talk about shadow work. It's a trending topic in both spirituality and psychology. Um, it's a popular topic. A lot of people get into therapy and they've yet to do their shadow work. A lot of people get into therapy and they've yet to even start their shadow work. That's more so. Um, a lot of people get into therapy to let that be the start of their shadow work. This is why I say like therapy is important. I have a therapist. I think everybody should have a therapist, um, because it's good to have an outside perspective. It's good to have um, an objective view. It's good to have um, basically another educated mind to bounce your stuff off of. Because that's really all therapy serves to do, is to listen, teach a little bit, ask questions, and get you to challenge your beliefs and your views. Because it's your beliefs and your views that got you in the seat. Um, I also had people ask me when I started talking about my telepathy and my clairvoyance and a little bit of my telekinesis. Um, and these are gifts that I've had access to since I was little. Um, my mom and my aunt used to talk to me about it. My living aunt, the one who's still here, uh, she knows what it is. She sees it in me. She understands. These are all people that were my um, familiar growing up, and I say familiar because we share blood with a lot of people. That don't make them a familiar. We got a lot of people that we label as family, but that don't make them a familiar. A familiar is a soul thing. It's a spirit thing. You know what I mean? So I see a familiar as somebody that I got a soul tie with. Like we don't even got to be blood to be a familiar. You see what I'm saying? Um, we don't have to even have the same spiritual experience as far as like how I got mixed up with Lucifer, the darkness, um, the devil, and all that kind of stuff. We don't even have to have that shared experience. It's just people who have this understanding, this knowing. Um, it's crazy because I saw Alex Jones talk about being spoken to in the same sense that I try to explain to you guys. And I hadn't seen this video before. This was one of his newer videos. And I don't keep up with them guys as much as I used to in the past. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I stay up to date on like the current climate, but a, um, I'm not a necessarily I'm not necessarily a follower of these people today. Like I don't consume their stuff that much. One of my biggest mentors in my knowledge and what I know, what I'm putting the facts to, what I feel and what I have this internal knowing of, was more so people like Art Bell, Edgar Casey, Dr. Gary Schwartz, Lynn McTaggart, like a lot of people that have came, Terrence McKenna, Carl Jung, Aleister Crowley, Sigmund Freud. These are all people who came before us that had great information, had great knowledge, had great education. They went out and experienced it though. You know what I'm saying? They went out in pursuit. They went out to chase. They went out to discover. They went out to explore. They went out to find. They went on their spiritual walk. This was all linked to shadow. So you can't do your shadow work without walking into it. And that doesn't mean that you have to go pursue darkness. I'm never going to tell you that. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's enough people in the world, like myself and many others, who went out and did that already to in pursuit of a truth, in pursuit of a knowledge, in pursuit of clarity. You see what I mean? Society lies, and we've lived a lie since the beginning of time here. You know what I mean? And we're in this time now where the mask is off, right? But nothing's really changed. Now, to a lot of people, they're going to be excited because the mask is coming off. And they're like, oh, I see you. I can see you now. I'm not. And I'm not because I've seen the mask get pulled off over and over and over. What I'm looking for is the big change, the big action. I'm looking for a point in time where we stop tearing each other apart and stay focused. We got ADHD when it comes to what's important. We need to stay focused on the real enemy instead of making enemies amongst each other in the pursuit of this same knowledge, doing the same things that led us to the pitfalls and the downfalls that we're in this position to begin with. We're only in this position because of that right there. We're not in this position because we didn't know or we didn't have the knowledge. We're in this position because every time we get close to the death, every time we get close to the door and we're about to open it and push it open, right before we turn the lights on, one of our fellow men and women come and snatch us out and slam the door shut and lock it back up with a new key. We can't afford to have that keep happening. It's why, like, when I call out people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Joe Rogan, whoever, the list goes on and on, I do it from two sides of the story. I don't just do it from my personal opinion. You know, what I say when I'm sitting back watching their video for the first time or seeing a clip for the first time. I process it. I sit with it. I think about all sides. I think about the situation that they're in. And then I make my statement on what I think about it. Now, that comes from, that type of processing comes from shadow work. It doesn't mean that you're going to be absent of emotion. It doesn't mean that you're going to not have anger, not have reactions, not have sadness, not have depression. It doesn't mean you're going to just remove normal human emotions. You see what I'm saying? Like, I got a chart. I don't know how many of you are parents, but I'm a parent. And I got a chart that we keep on our wall. And it's literally all the emotions in all the different categories. And sometimes we'll have our children go to the board and say how they're feeling. And that prompts discussion. Then we can get into their mind about what's going on in their mind about these feelings. You see what I mean? So this is me, like, this is my wife and I doing this with them as they grow, because it's like I tell my wife, like, it's done over time. You know what I'm saying? These are things that are attended to daily, not when there's a big dramatic thing and then you realize you're missing something or you're going about something incorrectly. This is the opportunity that we now have with the next generation to do this, right? The problem is you're still working against a system that is dominated by the opposite of what that stands for. You're dominated by a system that does not believe in a shadow work for us. You see what I mean? They have all the access. Why would they? They don't need to do shadow work. They don't have to. They have the money. They can buy everything they want. They don't need to do shadow. They have the power. They can force themselves in situations. They don't have to earn it. They don't have to be the representation of whatever it is they're trying to do. You see what I'm saying? So it's a big difference. We can't model others. We got to model what's in our soul, what's in our spirit, our tie to something higher. You know what I'm saying? Um, so I was asked a lot about how to access the gifts, the telepathy, the clairvoyance, um, and telekinesis. So you already have it. That's the first thing you need to know, and you need to start telling yourself you need to recondition. You see what I mean? We're all manifesting with our mouth and our thoughts. It's power. You see what I'm saying? Everybody has it. So think about that. You know what I'm saying? So first, and it's like I told you before with the Lucifer thing, acknowledgement. You got to acknowledge it. It's not just gonna Lucifer isn't just waiting for you to walk around the corner of a casino and he's gonna ambush you with a pamphlet. That's not how that goes. You see what I'm saying? You gotta live the lifestyle, and then you gotta ask. You gotta call it. You gotta call it out. You gotta provoke. You see what I'm saying? So that's how that goes. It's the same way you heal. It's the same way you heal. You see big prayer groups get around somebody with cancer and pray and pray and pray. And these are good hearted people. These are people that love this person in this bed. And they pray and pray and pray. And then they go back for their 6-month checkup and they're cancer free. And the doctor's just scratching his head saying maybe it was a error. See that? No, it was no error. So that's the step right there. You have to acknowledge that you have them again, because you always had them. You just have to acknowledge it. And then how do you sharpen? Step 1, past acknowledgement. Step 2 of sharpening it is the shadow work. And it takes a really long time for some people. The longer you go, the more dirt you dig with that shovel, the older you get, the more conflicted you get spiritually, the more issues you go through mentally, the more trauma you've endured, the more trauma you've inflicted. All this is going to make your shadow work harder and harder and harder and harder. You see what I'm saying? So for a lot of people, the big step is letting some things go, adding some new stuff. Um, when I used to talk to people about fitness and health and stuff like that, I used to tell them it was a better plan to add new things than it was to try to take away things you like, because it's a lot more challenging. Those good things will naturally replace. You can only eat so much. You can only drink so much. So those good things will automatically limit all those other things. And over time, you'll build confidence. Over time, you'll build tolerance. Over time, your palate will change. Over time, you'll see the health benefits. And over time, you'll slowly start to remove those things. You see what I'm saying? Like, I, I, I seldomly, rarely eat pork, right? But every once in a while, if I want to have some bacon, I'm going to have some bacon. The previous me never once cared at all. You see what I mean? Like pork chops was a staple in my household. Fried foods, deep fried foods was a staple in my household. So that's a lot of it too. Part of my shadow work was acceptance. So a big part of your shadow work is acceptance, becoming more accepting of yourself and not beating yourself down about things. We're so tortured, and a lot of it self-inflicted based on society guidelines. We're oppressed and and scrambled and conflicted sexually, entertainment wise, with our relationships, the way we appear, the way we dress, the way we talk, the music we listen to, everything is under scrutiny in this world today. But we praise and preach tolerance, but we have none. We think because we have all these new groups popping up that get parades, or all these minorities that have a voice that are now finally getting to be heard, there's a careful switch there. A human being is just a human being. So while I can support your expression, while I can support your lifestyle for you, if you are preaching and speaking out to be heard, it does not mean you get to quiet other people in the process. You feel that? You feel what I'm saying? Because it's tolerance for all. You see what I'm saying? Just like with religions and other beliefs. What is the issue with just letting people have what they have? It doesn't require an explanation. Being a human being doesn't require an explanation. Um, Cross-dressing, the sexual taboo, the all the different things as far as personalities, drugs, alcohol, blah, 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 entertainment, music, knowledge, all this stuff has been here. You look back to great art and portraits and things that were drawn, and Michelangelo and all these different things that you see that are represented in the art. The stuff carved into walls inside of caves and painted on the rocks, you see represented in the art. Art is the expression. It is the honest expression. You see what I mean? It's already been represented, so it's not a new thing. It's just a matter of tolerance. Because you had belief systems that were looking for control more so than they were about being honest. They were looking for control more than they wanted to be honest. It wasn't about honesty and righteousness. It was about control. If they limit your self-expression, they limit your influence. They limit your power. They limit your strength. They limit your security. They limit everything with that. But behind closed doors, they're all doing it anyway. That's what I mean. It's about control. It's about controlling your voice and controlling your representation of being an individual. They want us all the same. They want to be able to put us in categories so they can identify, so they can better control us, so they can better market to us. It has nothing to do with what's right and wrong, and it has nothing to do with what's real. You see what I mean? So part of your shadow work is having acceptance over some things, not trying to change everything. Even when it comes to the Bible, like, I kind of chuckled and told my wife a long time ago, like, man, I've just accepted some things about myself that I don't want to change. I don't need to. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's some things that I'm going to limit now. There's some things that I'm going to think more about. There's some things that I'm going to try to remove. And then there's some things that I'm going to add. And this is all in accordance with facing your shadow. You see what I mean? So a lot of the shadow work is going back in reflection, time traveling, going back through your past from the beginning of what you can remember, and over time slowly walking back to where you are right now. And along that way, redoing things. In that situation, I should have, but concretely, not that back and forth trying to figure out shit. Like concretely, in that situation, I would have rather have done this instead of that. I shouldn't have did that. And it's nobody's fault. It's not my mama's fault. It's not my daddy's fault. It's not their daddy's fault. No, it's my fault. I shouldn't have did that. I shouldn't have allowed that. This is equally important. I shouldn't have allowed that person to treat me that way. I shouldn't have allowed these people to get close to me. I shouldn't have gotten close to these people. I should have learned my lesson. I should have challenged myself more. You see what I'm saying? I shouldn't have been afraid. I should have stood on who I was all the time. I should have acted in faith instead of survival mode. You see what I mean? So it's a lot to it. And a good example would be, you see marriages dwindling, right, in society. All kinds of issues here now. You see a lot when a partner steps out on their partner, they blame the other partner. You see what I mean? That's like protocol, it seems like. Or if somebody fucks up in a relationship, they step out, but they blame the other person. Now, you go through your life doing that. All things have merit, but you go through your life doing that. It's not about that person that you hurt with a lie. It's about what happens to you over time. And you think karma ain't hitting you because the lie covered you, right? But karma will hit you because that action that you really don't like about yourself is going to keep showing up. And you're going to keep being confused. Why are you confused? You did the shit, right? You're confused because you keep lying to yourself about why it's occurring. You keep blaming others for your behaviors, your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions when it's really all up to you. You see what I mean? And in the fine print of that is weakness. Because anytime you do things based upon other people, or anytime you let other people make you make decisions that you normally wouldn't make that feel outside of your character, that's weakness. So you end up being two things that you don't see, weak and wrong. And there's a lot of things that wrap up into that. It's the same thing, like you fall to addiction. Well, everybody and their mama's been telling you that drugs are bad, alcohol is bad. You know, we were all part of DARE. we all saw that. So it's not that we don't know. It's just there's a bigger influence at hand. And part of your journey and your walk in life is being above the influence, being your own influence, or not trying to influence anybody. Just go off and be happy. Have an experience here because you're not here for long. You don't know how long you're going to be here. Your story could end today. So there's no sense in living in a false reality because it's not hurting other people as much as it's hurting you. You see what I mean? So the big bulk of shadow work is just going back over your life with honesty and not worrying so much about the other people. Like, yeah, such and such did you dirty like this, and such started this with you, and they're blaming you for it, and such did this to your such and such at this time on this day, and that's what's just because it's true doesn't mean that it's the raw truth. You see what I'm saying? Just because that it's the story is true doesn't mean you had to be a part of it necessarily. There's other things you could always do. It's not like being a monk or being a Buddhist, but it is very much like that, to get yourself more on the right mind of things instead of being wrong about so much in the way you behave and respond to things, the way you think about things before you even do that. You see what I'm saying? So to me, That's what shadow work looks like. Getting closer to that child that you used to be, that you were, no matter how far you got to go to find it. Getting closer to that, because that's more so your true self. You ever seen kids who get to stay happy and kids who get to stay kids, and what they turn out like? They have a happier existence. They have a more innocent, free existence. Then you see kids who grow up in a lot of conflicts and issues and abuse, and they are grown. They don't stay a kid. They seek grown things now because emotionally they've been made grown. Mentally, they've been exposed to grown. So that's what they start to embody. And a lot of these people who are having to do their shadow work as a project versus as a lifestyle, like I was saying about with my kids, where it's a constant teaching. That's one of the first things you're going to find when you go back through is you're going to see a childhood that got stolen. You're going to see things that you stayed attached to that you're trying to recreate that you're never going to be able to. You're just trying to embody the joy and the innocence again of what that is. And that can be found despite what you've been through and despite what you've done. It's just a matter of acceptance and tolerance for others. It's a matter of acceptance and loving yourself. And then maybe you'll love others better. A lot of people see the sacrificial empath as like one of the best people to be with because they'll just endlessly give, they'll endlessly show up, they'll never not show up, they'll never not be there. They're steady, they're consistent. But it's a distortion. That in itself is a distorted way to live your life. It's not a good thing. I remember many years, it wasn't many years, but it was some years. It's been a while, maybe 4 years or 5 years. But I remember the big trend where everybody was saying what their biggest toxic trait was. And if I could have literally screenshot it and added up the amount of people that were saying my toxic trait is I'm too nice. My toxic trait is I'm too loving, I'm too forgiving. No, being too nice, there's no such thing. Being nice, being loving, and being forgiving are great core fundamental ways to be. You haven't found the toxicity about you that is causing whatever this self-righteous conflict is within you. Because I promise you, if you asked a bunch of other people who've had relationships with you, they're not going to say your biggest toxic trait is that you're too friendly, you're too nice, you're too sweet, you're too perfect, you're too innocent. That's ego. That's narcissism, and that's also trauma that never got dealt with or spoken to and nobody acknowledged in that person. So it's two things. It's not all bad news. There is some justification there because you feel like you never get your just due. You never get seen for your heart or for what really your feelings, your emotions, what hurts you. So there's this constant need to defend something that doesn't need a defense. You see what I mean? So, and doing your shadow work, that right there is a good example of a lot of people who have to do shadow work because you're not seeing yourself as needing to do anything, needing to fix anything, needing to improve on anything. You're basically saying in that statement that I'm perfect and the only thing bad about me is other people, and that's it. Well, why didn't you build your life to be more of an isolationist then? You see what I mean? So there is something about you. Is it a need to fit in? Is it a need to find a familiar? Is it a need to be liked or validated? So just challenge yourself. Don't settle. Don't be afraid because it's you there.